June 2nd, 1944, 12:15 a.m., Whitemore Marshalling Yard, near March, Cambridgeshire. The darkness is thick across the Isle of Ely. In 4 days, the largest amphibious invasion in human history will launch from the southern coast of England. But tonight, in the vast railway yards of Whitemore, another kind of preparation unfolds in silence and shadow. Driver Benjamin Gimbert, 41 years old, climbs into the cab of locomotive number 7337, a WD Austerity 280, one of the war horses of Britain's rail network. The engine is cold and utilitarian, built for endurance rather than comfort. Beside him, 22-year-old fireman James Nightall takes his position at the firebox, coal shovel in hand. Behind them, in the brake van at the rear of the consist, guard Herbert Clark checks his manifest one final time. 51 wagons, 400 tons of high-explosive bombs, components, tail fins, detonators. The entire deadly cargo is bound for Ipswich, destined for American bomber squadrons preparing for the coming storm across the Channel. This is freight train duty in wartime Britain, routine, tedious, and unimaginably dangerous. The wagons are covered with tarpaulin sheets, tucked and tied according to regulations. But regulations in the chaos of total war are sometimes followed imperfectly. In the leading wagon, coupled directly behind the locomotive's tender, 44 general-purpose 500-pound bombs sit stacked in the darkness, 22,000 pounds of explosive power. The wagon had been used previously to transport bulk sulfur powder. It was cleaned between loads, but not perfectly. Small quantities remain, embedded in the wooden floorboards, invisible in the pre-dawn gloom. At 12:15 a.m., the signal changes. Gimbert releases the brake. Steam hisses. The great wheels begin to turn. 51 wagons lurch forward, couplings clanking in sequence like dominoes falling. The train rolls out of Whitemore Yard and into the Cambridgeshire night, heading southeast toward Ipswich. The rhythm is steady. The route is familiar. Both Gimbert and Nightall have made this run before. Nightall shovels coal into the firebox, maintaining pressure. The orange glow illuminates his young face, concentrated, focused. Sparks rise from the smokestack and vanish into the darkness above. Some sparks, caught by the wind, spiral downward. Neither man speaks much. There is nothing to say. This is work. This is duty. The locomotive pulls its deadly cargo through villages still sleeping, past fields and hedgerows, through a countryside preparing for invasion. The track ahead is clear. The night is quiet. But the night will not remain quiet. 1:45 a.m. Approaching Soham Station. 90 minutes into the journey, the rhythm is unchanged. The locomotive pounds forward at steady speed, the rails clicking beneath in hypnotic repetition. Gimbert leans slightly out of the cab, scanning the track ahead as protocol demands. Nightall tends the fire, watching the pressure gauges. Then Gimbert sees it. A flicker, a yellow-orange glow, low and dancing, reflected against the side of the tender. He turns his head sharply, looking back along the length of the train. His stomach drops. The leading wagon is on fire. Not smoking, not smoldering, burning. Flames are visible, climbing up from inside the wagon bed, feeding from the sulfur residue, accelerated by the friction and heat of the journey, spreading with horrifying speed beneath the tucked sheeting that traps the heat like a furnace. "James!" Gimbert's voice cuts through the engine noise. "The first wagon, it's on fire!" Nightall moves to the side of the cab and looks back. His face goes pale. Both men know instantly what this means. They are holding 400 tons of explosives. The leading wagon directly behind them contains 44 500-pound bombs. If that wagon explodes, it will detonate the rest of the train in a chain reaction. The destruction would be unimaginable. They are approaching Soham, a small village, population just over 3,000. The station is ahead, perhaps half a mile. Houses line the streets. Families are sleeping in their beds. Gimbert does not hesitate. He slams the brakes. The wheels lock and shriek against the rails. Sparks shower from beneath the locomotive as friction fights momentum. The entire train shudders and groans, 51 wagons compressing against each other as the brakes bite. The locomotive slows, and finally stops. They are just outside Soham Station. The platforms are visible in the darkness. The signal box stands to the left, a small tower with windows glowing faintly yellow. Inside, signalman Frank Bridges is on duty, watching the line. Gimbert does not run. He does not abandon the locomotive. Instead, he shouts to Nightall, "Uncouple the wagon, now!" Nightall drops his shovel and climbs down from the footplate. The fire is roaring now, the entire wagon engulfed in flames that illuminate the night with hellish orange light. The heat is intense. The air smells of burning wood and chemicals, and something acrid, sulfur igniting, feeding the blaze. Nightall runs along the side of the locomotive, past the tender, toward the burning wagon. He knows what he is doing. He knows what is inside. He does not stop. 1:46 a.m., Soham Station platform. James Nightall reaches the coupling between the blazing wagon and the second wagon behind it. The fire is directly above him, roaring like a living thing. Flames leap upward, consuming the tarpaulin, exposing the stacked bombs inside. The metal is heating rapidly. The wooden wagon bed is disintegrating. His hands move with trained precision. The coupling mechanism is heavy, resistant. He works the pin loose, twisting and pulling, despite the heat radiating down on him. Sweat pours from his face. His lungs burn with smoke. But he does not stop. He cannot stop. The coupling releases. "Done!" Nightall shouts. He scrambles back toward the locomotive, climbing onto the footplate. Gimbert already has the throttle open. The locomotive lurches forward, pulling only the burning wagon now, separating it from the 50 remaining wagons of explosives still sitting on the track behind them. The plan is simple and desperate. Pull the burning wagon away from the station, away from the village, away from the rest of the train. Get it into the open countryside. Give it space. Give the bombs room to explode without destroying everything. Gimbert pushes the locomotive forward. 100 yards, 120, 140. They pass the station platforms, the wheels grinding against the rails. Frank Bridges, the signalman, has come out onto the platform. He stares at the burning wagon being dragged past him, flames towering into the night sky. He understands what is happening. He does not run. Gimbert shouts through the open cab window as they pass. "Stop the next train! Stop everything!" Bridges nods. He turns and runs back toward the signal box, moving to throw the signals to red, to prevent any other train from entering this section of track. Gimbert and Nightall are still moving, 140 yards from where they stopped, still alongside the station platforms, still too close. The bombs explode. 1:53 a.m. Soham Station. The explosion is not a single sound. It is the end of sound. It is pressure and light and force beyond comprehension. 22,000 pounds of high explosive detonating simultaneously in the open air. The shock wave moves faster than perception. It hits the locomotive first, lifting the 20-ton engine like a toy and hurling it sideways. Benjamin Gimbert is thrown nearly 200 meters through the air, his body ragdolling across the tracks and into a field beyond the station. The footplate, the cab, the tender, all are shredded by the blast, metal torn apart and scattered like shrapnel. James Nightall dies instantly. He is at the epicenter. There is no pain, no awareness. One moment he is standing on the footplate, watching the track ahead. The next moment he is gone. Frank Bridges, standing on the platform, is caught by the full force of the explosion. The shockwave tears through him. He collapses, mortally wounded. He will die the next day in hospital, never regaining consciousness. The station building disintegrates. Brick and timber and glass become projectiles. The roof lifts off and crashes down in fragments. The platforms crack and buckle. The signal box shakes but holds, its windows blown inward, showering Bridges' position with shards. The explosion carves a crater 66 feet in diameter and 15 feet deep, a wound in the earth that swallows the track itself. The rails twist and snap, iron bent like wire. Sleepers are vaporized. Gravel and soil fountain upward and rain down across the village. The shockwave spreads outward in a ring of destruction. Windows shatter in houses 900 yards away. Roofs collapse, walls crack. Over 700 properties suffer damage, some severe, some moderate, all sudden and violent. Families are thrown from their beds, children scream, the elderly clutch their chests in shock. But the rest of the train does not explode. 50 wagons containing 380 tons of high explosive sit undamaged on the track behind the crater. The uncoupling held, the separation worked, the chain reaction was prevented. In the darkness and confusion, amid the screaming and the ringing silence after the blast, Guard Herbert Clark staggers to his feet in the brake van. He is stunned, deafened, disoriented, but he is alive. He climbs down from the van and begins walking along the track toward the next signal box to warn them what has happened, to stop any trains coming from the other direction, to complete the job that Gimbert and Nightall began. Dawn, June 2nd, 1944. Soham. The sun rises over a scene of devastation. The crater dominates the station, a black pit surrounded by twisted metal and shattered wood. The locomotive is unrecognizable. Boiler ruptured, frame bent, wheels scattered. Debris litters the village, pieces of wagon, fragments of bomb casing, chunks of rail. Benjamin Gimbert is found in a field, unconscious but breathing. He has been thrown nearly 200 meters by the blast. His injuries are severe: broken bones, internal trauma, burns and lacerations. He is rushed to hospital, where doctors work through the morning to stabilize him. He will survive, but recovery will take months. James Nightall's body is recovered from the crater. He is 22 years old. He left behind a widow and a future that will never be. His sacrifice is absolute. Frank Bridges dies in hospital the following day, June 3rd. He was on the platform doing his duty, watching the burning wagon pass. He could have run. He stayed.
5 others suffer severe injuries in the blast. 22 more suffer minor injuries, cuts, bruises, shock. But there are no other deaths. In the village of 3,000 people, with the train carrying 400 tons of explosives, only 2 men die from the explosion itself. The reason is simple and staggering. Benjamin Gimbert and James Nightall separated the burning wagon from the rest of the train. They pulled it 140 yards away. They prevented a catastrophe that would have leveled the entire village and killed hundreds, perhaps thousands. Railway engineers arrive by mid-morning. They stare at the crater, at the damage, at the scale of what could have been. Emergency repairs begin immediately. Crews work through the day and night, filling the crater, relaying track, re-establishing the line. Freight traffic resumes within 18 hours. Passenger traffic returns the next day. The war does not wait. D-Day is 4 days away. The trains must run.
July 1944, London. The citation is read aloud in formal language, but the words cannot capture the reality of what happened that night. As an ammunition train was pulling into a station in Cambridgeshire, the driver, Gimbert, discovered that the wagon next to the engine was on fire. He immediately drew Nightall's attention to the fire and brought the train to a standstill. By the time the train had stopped, the whole of the truck was enveloped in flames, and, realizing the danger, the driver instructed the fireman to try to uncouple the truck immediately behind the blazing vehicle. Without the slightest hesitation, Nightall, although he knew that the truck contained explosives, uncoupled the vehicle and rejoined his driver on the footplate. The citation continues, detailing their actions, their awareness of the danger, their decision to act rather than flee. It concludes with a simple truth. There is no doubt that if the whole train had been involved, as it would have been but for the gallant action of the men concerned, there would have been serious loss of life and property.
Both men are awarded the George Cross, the highest civilian decoration for bravery in the British Empire, equivalent to the Victoria Cross. It is recognition of courage that goes beyond instinct, beyond training. It is recognition of 2 men who chose to save others at the cost of everything. Benjamin Gimbert receives his medal in person, still recovering from his injuries. He accepts it quietly, without speeches or fanfare. He does not consider himself a hero. He considers himself a railwayman who did his job. James Nightall's medal is presented to his widow. She holds it in her hands, this piece of metal that represents her husband's final 7 minutes of life. The metal is cold and heavy. It does not bring him back.
June 2nd, 2007, Soham. 63 years after the explosion, a permanent memorial is unveiled in Soham. Prince Richard, Duke of Gloucester, stands before a monument of Portland stone with bronze inlay, depicting the damaged train and the text of the incident. The memorial reads simply, factually, without embellishment. It lists the names: Benjamin Gimbert, James Nightall, Frank Bridges. It states the date, the circumstances, the outcome. It does not try to glorify or dramatize. The facts speak for themselves. In the years that follow, locomotives are named in their honor. Class 47 and later Class 66 engines carry their names across Britain's rail network, continuing the work they began. The nameplates are polished and maintained, small tributes to men who became legends not through battle, but through a different kind of warfare, the war against panic, against self-preservation, against the instinct to run when fire and death are bearing down. In December 2021, Soham Station reopens after 56 years of closure. A plaque is unveiled at the ceremony, commemorating the 4 railmen involved in the disaster. The station is modern, clean, efficient. Trains run on time. Passengers board and disembark, most unaware of the history beneath their feet, of the crater that once existed here, of the night when the earth itself was torn open. But some know, some remember. And on June 2nd each year, flowers are laid at the memorial. Elderly residents who were children in 1944 return, their memories sharp and vivid. The sound of the explosion, the shaking of the ground, the morning light revealing the destruction. They tell their grandchildren about Benjamin and James, about what those men did, about why it matters.
Because it does matter. In a war defined by millions of deaths and vast campaigns, the story of Soham is small. 2 men, 1 train, 1 village. But within that small story is something essential. The choice to act when inaction would be safer. The decision to risk everything to save people you've never met. The understanding that duty is not just following orders, but doing what is right when the world is burning around you. Benjamin Gimbert lived for decades after the war, carrying the memory of that night, of James Nightall standing beside him on the footplate, of the 7 minutes between seeing the fire and hearing the explosion. He never spoke much about it. Railwaymen rarely do. The job was the job. You did it, and then you moved on. But he never forgot. None of them did. And neither should we.